Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final third. And this is a video that is a bit different to what we've done the last two episodes. This is more a video about ranking the big six teams transfer window. Now, if you know who the big six are, it's Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Tottenham, what we consider to be the big six, right? So we're going to rank the transfer windows. We're going to consider both sales and buys. And we're going to reveal at the beginning of the video the player from the previous quiz. And we're going to have a quiz at the end of the video as well. And if we have time, then we'll talk about our overall thoughts of pre-season for both West Ham and Man United. And that's about it. Let's just get straight into it, I guess. Al, do you want to reveal the player?
The player was Gianfranco Zola. I hope you guessed that. Let us know in the comments if you got that. And like Carlos said, at the end of this video, we'll give you another player to guess.
It's a good Italian accent as well. I rate it.
Yeah, I was going to say as well.
I didn't offend any Italians.
It sounded okay, to be fair, but let's get straight into it. So, obviously, we know who the big six are. Obviously, I mentioned them at the beginning. They've all made decent signings. Some made better than others, but we've already us three have already made a ranking for them, and we're going to start from top to bottom. So we'll start with sixth place. Now we've all decided that Tottenham have finished bottom of our transfer ranking, and the reason being is they have only signed Mohamed Kudus. They signed Matthias Tell, who was already on loan. They signed Kevin Danso, who I believe was on loan as well. They signed an 18-year-old centre-back, from January. And they signed an 18-year-old centre-back from Croatia, a 20-year-old centre-back from Japan, and Joao Painha on loan. Not bad signings, don't get me wrong, but two of them are already there. Joao Painha's on loan, and Kudus is a great signing, to be fair. Obviously, I think of course, yeah. To be fair, you could include that, but we're going to talk about the player side, I would say. And they haven't really sold anyone. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg was already on loan, and they just sold him out for like 13 million. So, I think we should start with Ali because he's got a bit of a connection to this transfer window because of Mohamed Kudus.
Judas.
Do you want to give your thoughts?
Judas. He's a Judas, mate. That's what he is. That's why I call him. He's not.
Yeah, the Robbie clip from AFTV.
The man who shall not be named, but I've already said it, so it's too late. But Judas, he is a Judas. I'm just, there's ways of going about it. Of course, when the whole situation was happening, we were waiting out for Chelsea to make an offer as well. But, Kudus decided that he wanted to really push for Tottenham. And, there's a way, fair enough, okay, whatever. But then even during the promotional videos, the way he was acting, nah, cannot be forgiven. This, in my opinion, it's worse than the Pirates. Like, I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. He's an absolute Judas.
I love him.
I prefer not to speak.
Yeah, literally. I think it's better that I don't continue to speak in.
Or you can just tell the emotion. I just feel it.
Yeah, like
This is going to be like beep. It's going to be beeping.
Yeah, literally. He could have waited out for Chelsea, but he decided no, that he wanted to go to Tottenham. And then again, like I said in the promotional videos, the way he acted.
Stupidest thing is he said Tottenham's in my heart. Like why would you say?
Yeah, no, that is crazy. I'll be honest.
It is crazy.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't fancy discussing that Judas.
Let's move on from the Kudus. Right, generally,
let's brush past that. Yeah,
let's actually talk about the transfers for Tottenham. Right, forget what he was at West Ham. Forget that. Let's talk about what he's going to be for Tottenham. I know you don't want to talk about
objectively.
We just have to push your feelings aside for now.
Okay, right.
Okay.
To be fair, I think I know we just want to talk about the players, but I think the best signing they've made, in my opinion, is Thomas Frank. Again, I know that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here just to talk about the players that they signed. Obviously, like you said, they haven't really signed much, so it's kind of like, there's not much to really go off it and stuff. And yeah, so to be honest, there's not really too much to talk about Tottenham. Whether they make any more transfers by the end of the transfer window is yet, obviously, we're just going to have to wait to see. And to be honest, I don't really have too much to say. I think, I just really don't have much to say. I don't want to keep talking about them, to be honest. If you boys want to just carry on, you can talk about them.
All right, yeah, let us talk about it. So Mohamed Kudus obviously is the best player they've bought. Tell and the other lot. Payne is a good signing. We can't.
Palhinha is just under him, I'd say.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I forgot about Payne. To be
but
fair.
Payne is a good signing.
Not bad.
They probably needed a strong defensive midfielder because he's a destroyer. He does his job, you know. He didn't really work at Bayern, surprisingly. I thought he'd do a lot better there. But Hassan, do you think the signing of Painha and Kudus can push them up the league? Or obviously they have been linked to more players.
Yep.
So obviously they probably will. Their ranking might change further down the line because obviously there's still a whole month left of the transfer window. But coming up to the Premier League season, is it enough for them to sort of get started?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think also the unfortunate injury of James Maddison also came out at a bad time. So I feel like them making two midfield signings is very important for that. It's definitely going to make up for that injury. Maddison's a key player for Tottenham. Very creative, very very good on the ball. And I feel like losing that outlet in creativity is not a good thing for Tottenham at this rate. But I feel like Kudus can bring something good to Tottenham. Although he didn't have a great season at West Ham last season, he is a quality player, and I feel like he'll bring a lot to the team. But yeah, no, I feel like Tottenham in general. I mean, obviously, as you said, a few of their signings have been from previous season, so it's just been a loan deal that's been extended to a permanent contract. And I feel like Tottenham, like as we're going to see later, we have teams that have made less signings but more quality signings. And I feel like Tottenham need that, especially for a team that won the Europa League. I feel like we should see a bit more quality in that transfer window. But I think Tottenham will definitely have an improved side. But obviously losing players like Maddison, Heung-min Son will definitely affect the way they play. It won't be a straightway improvement in the first few games. I think. I feel like the team needs to adapt. Obviously, Thomas Frank is the new coach as well, so it's going to take time for him to adapt to the team and how they play, how the players have played in their previous clubs, and how they adapt to this new system. But yeah, no, I wish the best of luck for them, and I feel like Tottenham will.
Do you wish the best of luck for them?
I mean, Tottenham are going to need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they
but
might.
no, I feel like they made good signings. I just feel like with a team that's won Europa League, I feel like they need a bit high quality. As we've discussed, they might go for Rodrigo. So if they go for a play like that, and if he does join, I feel like that will put them up, a bit higher up in the ranking.
To be fair, yeah, no, I kind of agree with Hassan there. Like, I think for a team that's just won the Europa League, understandably they still finish really low in the league. I still think, for a team that's got Champions League football, I was expecting a bit more in terms of signings, and especially in terms of the quality of the signings. Like, if they're going to be playing Champions League football, not only do they need more depth, they're going to need more quality in the depth and quality in terms of just players in general to be able to compete in both the Champions League and the league and other, cups like the Carabao and the League Cup. So yeah, that's what I think about the Tottenham's transfer window.
Yeah, and they've lost a lot of quality as well. That's the problem. As I said, Maddison and Son, there's a lot of quality that's lost.
Exactly,
so
that they've lost.
How they're going to make up for that quality lost, I don't know. We have to see.
I think with the Tottenham transfer window, Kudus is a good replacement, I would say, for Son. I know they don't really play on the same side, but he's a quality footballer, Kudus. I actually think Tottenham, they have a good squad. Like, I think last season they got really affected with injuries. You look at their squad, it's not really that bad. Like, they've got good centre-backs. They've got a good right back. They've got a good left back. They've got a good back line. They've got a decent midfield. Maybe their attack is their position they need to really work on. But generally, I thought their team was quite good. But we know last season they had horror injuries. Like, injuries affected them last season. And they still came out with a trophy. So last season, technically, successful in terms of silverware because that's what they needed. They needed that. But yeah, I think they still need to make more signings. Like every club needs to make more signings. But we'll move on to the club that's at fifth, my beloved Manchester United. We've signed Brian Mbeumo, Mateus Cunha, and a youngster in Diogo Leon. We haven't made any sales, which is standard Man United, being slow as usual with outgoings. Seem to be decent with incomings, but with outgoings were absolutely terrible. We got rid of Rashford on loan, but that's about it. And I think it's not really a great transfer window so far. I mean, we were talking about Benjamin Sesko the last couple episodes. That seems like it's going to happen because
Yeah.
of what happened in the last couple of days, but we'll discuss that in the next video. But currently, we're going to rank them at fifth. And what do you guys think of Manchester United transfer window? And why do you think it's better than Tottenham's, even if it's just by a little bit?
Hassan, I think you should start just because it's your club, so you probably know
Yeah,
better than me.
yeah. I wouldn't say so, but like since I'm more passionate about it,
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense for me to go first, so I'll go first. Yeah, I feel like they're two quality signings. Obviously, signing prime proven players gives you less of a risk, when signing a player like that. So you know what to expect from them in the league. But I'm not entirely convinced as a United fan that this is enough to bring us to the next level. I feel like we need another transfer window, maybe to elevate the team to another level. And also, if we sign Sesko, that does solve the issues we have up front. But also, Sesko is a very young player, so he might need some time to adapt and get used to the league. But I feel like Mbeumo is a class player. We saw in the game against Everton, very direct, very good passing. Cunha, still needs to work on adapting with the team as well. But he's also a quality player. We've seen it in the previous seasons as well with Wolverhampton. But yeah, I feel like I think in that Everton game, I think United's biggest problem got exposed, and that was the midfield. We've spoke about it before in the West Ham game as well. The Jared Bowen goal, how that completely, exposed the midfield of United. But I feel like now it's been more evident that this is a bigger problem than what we initially thought. And I think Amram knows that too. And I think there's concrete plans to sign a midfielder now. So I feel like that should be the next player that we sign, a box-to-box midfielder, number 6 or a number 8. But I feel like, yeah, Bruno, for me, class player, our best player for me. But I feel like he sometimes, he gets, out of hand with certain things and he forgets his position and he just, goes outside of his role. But I feel like, yeah, we need to sign players a bit more disciplined, for when we need that. And instead of the creative outlet that Bruno has. But yeah, now overall, I think it's a very good transfer window for us. We've been focused on signing quality players rather than signing players that we think might do well. As we've done with Rasmus Højlund and those type of players, we've signed them just merely on their potential and not what they've already done. So I feel like they're very safe signings, but also very quality signings. But yeah, I hope to see United, making an effort to sign a midfielder. I feel like that's our big problem right now. And signing Sesko would help, but we'll have to see how Sesko does in his seasons at United if he does join.
What about you, Al?
Yeah, so to be fair, I just agree with what Hassan said. I think it's great that they've signed two Prem proven experienced players in terms of Mbeumo and Cunha. I think I know Mbeumo's only played against Everton in this pre-season, so it's hard to really say how he's going to gel in the team. Didn't look bad, looked pretty good, so I'm sure he'll do well. He was great for Brentford, so I'd be surprised if he doesn't, play well for United. And Cunha, I think in the games that he's played so far in the preseason, he is looking really good for Man United, and I think he will really bolster the attack for United by linking play a lot. Who's the third guy you mentioned was Leon, I believe the
Diogo
Leon.
Leon, yeah.
Diego Leon, the Paraguayan defender, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a young one. To be honest, hadn't heard of the kid until United signed him, so can't really say too much on him
Yeah.
about
Same.
maybe
Yeah, we didn't hear
Yeah.
of him before.
stuff.
Yeah, he was signed from January, to be fair, but it was
Yeah.
just like he officially became a
Yes,
United player
exactly.
in
Yes,
June.
I didn't
So yeah.
join until the summer. Yeah, so
Mhm.
seen still a few minutes of him. Against West Ham, against some of the other games in the preseason. Looks all right. Looks hungry. A lot of youngsters are when they come to the Prem. Looks just hungry and ready to try to take on the Premier League. So we'll just have to wait and see how he does. In terms of how I think United's transfer window compares to the others, yeah, I think it's definitely a step above Tottenham's because I think in terms of the quality is just better because it's in players like Cunha and Mbeumo, these are top quality Prem players again with experience and in not only just experience in general but especially in the Prem, which is important. So yeah, so that's why I believe they're going to be a step above Tottenham, but still below the other teams in the Big Six. What about you, Carlos?
again, we're talking about the current transfer window. I think Manchester United right now, they need Prem proven players. They went and bought that with Cunha and Mbeumo. We needed attacking midfielders because one of our main issues last season was scoring our chances. Because believe it or not, we actually created some of the most chances in the league, but we just were terrible at converting. But we know and we've seen with the stats of Mateus Cunha and Mbeumo the fact that they are fantastic finishers and fantastic creators. Now, we talk about Rasmus Højlund a lot and about him being a terrible finisher, but really and truly, how many clear-cut chances did he have? Not many.
True.
Like,
I agree
you
as
can
well.
say he missed a lot of chances, yeah, but how many really real clear-cut chances? How many tap-ins has he had? You know what I mean? I'm sure
Yeah.
with Liverpool, they've made more tap-ins. I know they've got Salah, who is not that player, but you look at Man City with Haaland, they create chances for him. I mean, Arsenal create tap-in chances, but they don't have a tap-in player, but they do currently. We'll move on to Arsenal later down the line. But the point is, I think, is now that we've got players that can create, that are Prem proven, I think it's just a fantastic acquisition for Man United. We needed the attacking flair. We need consistency, and I think we've got that with Mbeumo and Cunha, and obviously potentially with Sesko. But let's move on from Man United because they haven't actually sold anyone, so that we can't really talk about that, except for Rashford going out on loan, which doesn't really help us. Let's go on to the fourth, which is Manchester City. Now, Manchester City made good signings, very good signings. And the thing is with Manchester City, you could probably say that they don't need Prem proven players. They have bought like two, but they don't need Prem proven players because they're a squad that's already, gelled together. They have experience, they can help nurture them. And to be fair, none of them are really, really young except for Ryan Cherky. But they've signed Reinders, the Dutch midfielder from AC Milan, fantastic player.
Exciting. Yeah,
Ryan
very excited
Ignori
to see him.
from Wolves. They needed a left back, and they've got one now.
Yeah.
Ryan Cherky, quality player. We've seen him play. And James Trafford from Burnley. They have signed more players, but those are the main big four signings they've made. They've made about 33 million. They sold Jan Couto. I think he's a Brazilian right back. They sold to Dortmund, but they haven't really made many major sales. Sorry, but those four signings, I think that can help them. I won't say help push for the title.
Maybe rebuild.
Maintain, yeah.
Rebuild a little.
Maybe rebuild a little bit. We never know. Man City, you can never underestimate them. With Pep Guardiola, you can never underestimate how Man City do. These players could come in and just be revelations, all of them. Like Cherky, he's got we've seen him play. He's got the world at his feet. Really, he's just unbelievable, 2-footed. We saw he made his debut for France and he scored a volley from outside the box against Spain, and it was insane.
Yeah.
But guys, what do you think Man City can do with this transfer window?
Honestly, yeah, it's of course, I was surprised by City's season last season. It's probably an effect from the dominance that they had the previous season. Winning 4 prems in a row. It's bound to happen. You can't keep going every season. It's bound to happen where they drop off a little, and again, finishing third, it's not much of a drop off at all. But for City standards, they definitely wouldn't have been happy with that season. Obviously, going trophyless, even being in an FA Cup final and losing. So, of course, they would have wanted to bring in some signings to rebuild and bring themselves back to the dominance that they were at. And if anyone's going to be able to bring them back to that level, it's going to be obviously with Pep Guardiola, the best manager in world football. And the players they brought in, very exciting players. I think lots of people would have been looking at Reinders and getting him in for their teams. He's very exciting. He's a great midfielder. And of course they lost De Bruyne, so that is exciting to see him come in and see how he does in maybe his position. Not sure is he really. I don't think he's maybe the same position. I'm not really sure. Ryan Cherky as well. Of course, like Carlos mentioned, we saw him in the Nations League this summer, and he was really exciting to watch against Spain. He's young. There's been a lot of compilations and highlights in training of him, and he looks really exciting. So, personally, I'm quite excited to see how these kind of players gel in. Ryan Nuri, that's someone that last season, I'll be honest, every time I seen him, I just thought, a big club's gonna just snatch him up, and so I wasn't surprised when City went in for him. He's a great fullback. Is a big loss for Wolves, and I think he'll really help boost that that left side of the defense for them. Because I do think last season they were a bit shaky in the defense at times, and I think having that left back, because they don't really have many fullbacks that are specifically fullbacks. So I think having someone like Riley Nuri will really help them in that position. I don't know about you, Hassan. What do you think about their transfer window?
Yeah, no, their transfer has been definitely pretty impressive. I mean, City obviously is a very stacked team as it is, but obviously they lost key players like De Bruyne. So I feel like they still need to maintain that high level. Obviously, they didn't win any trophies last season. I think for Man City, it was a very weird season for them. Obviously, being champions of Premier League, and also they've won the treble the season before that. So for them to completely fall off like that is, not City-like whatsoever. But with the signings that they've made, like Ryan Cherki, as you said, he's a he's a class player, very impressive with Lille. Um, uh, he he played very well against United. To be fair, in the first leg, second leg not so much, but he did score a goal. I think he's a very good player. 2-footed, got skills. He reminds me of Mahrez a little bit as well. He's a good player. Ryan Diz, class player for AC Milan. Very good box-to-box midfielder, number 8. I feel like he'll bring a lot to the team as well. And Ait Nouri is, he's one of those fullbacks in the Prem that's kind of under the radar, but he's, when people know about him, they talk good things about him, and for good reason too. He's a very good player, very quick on the ball as well. Obviously physical. So yeah, I feel like they made good signings, and but we have to see what Guardiola does with these players and how the team plays. Hopefully for them, they improve from what they did last season and actually win. But as a United fan, obviously I don't want them to win anything. But I've also read Cherki's comments about United. Also doesn't really want me to make them win everything. But it's like it's just we have to just see. To be honest, like a lot of these signings for them has been on potential. It's not really been anything that we don't really know what they can do in the Prem, so we have to just see what Guardiola does with them. Like players like Savinho, for example, he's had he's had moments of brilliance and stuff, but he hasn't been consistent enough. And I feel like that will happen with some of these players too. So we have to see, to be honest. But overall, City's made quality signings to a good number of signings as well. So it will be very interesting to see how they play.
Yeah, Man City. We know what Man City are. They're fantastic. They had a bad season last season, but they brought in players that can definitely improve their team, and players themselves will improve with the players that they are surrounded with. But let's move on to the top 3. Now, it's quite close for the top 2. Sorry, the third and second, but I think first is miles away. But third place, we gave it to Chelsea. Now, Chelsea signed a lot of players, as they always seem to do every single summer transfer window. They signed Joao Pedro from Brighton. They signed Jamie Gittins from Dortmund. They signed Joel Hato from Ajax. They signed Liam Delap from Ipswich. They signed Estival from Palmeiras. They signed Duro Esguio from Sporting. I don't know who that is, with all due respect. They signed Mamadou Sarr from that French team. I don't know what it's called. And they signed Credier Paz. I don't know how to say these names, with all the respect to them. Another youngster. They're all like the players. I can't say their names. They're all youngsters. You know what I mean? And I think they've loaned a couple of them out, but they've made a lot of sales. They sold Magliuiki. They've sold Petrovic. They sold Joao Felix, and they're looking to make even more sales. They've got a lot of players they need to sell, so they can make a lot of income. They've already made the most income out of any Premier League team. So in income-wise, they've made a lot of money. But obviously, we saw them win the Club World Cup, and Joao Pedro already looks like a very good player. Very, very good player for them. Liam Delap as a backup striker, or maybe as a rotational player, is good. Jamie Gittins is young. Joel Hato is a left back that can play centre back and is a good player. Estevao actually played against Chelsea and scored. Now he's fantastic. Let's see what he can do. Is he prem? Is he a prem type player? Because not a lot of Brazilians can come into the prem
Mm,
with their style of play and sort of make a name for
thrive.
themselves. There's
Yeah.
been a couple. There's been a couple, but you look at the best Brazilians, they've done it. They've done it in probably mostly La Liga. Like you look at the likes of Neymar. It's the
Vinicius
best
Junior,
example, you know. Vinicius
Ronaldinho.
Junior,
Rodrigo,
Ronaldinho, Rodrigo,
Rafinha,
Ronaldo R9,
Rafinha.
Rivaldo. Obviously, gone. You could say Pele.
Well,
You could
Rafinha was
say
playing in the
flipping
Prem as well, to be fair.
Rafinha. He was in the Prem, but obviously he just
Yeah,
exploded at
exactly.
Barca. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's see how he does. I think he's probably the most exciting Chelsea player because he's got the potential to reach, I think, world class status. But we have to
Yeah.
see how he does at Chelsea. I don't know what you guys think. Obviously, we saw them win the Club World Cup. Do you think that this can help them potentially push for a title?
Look, last season, towards the start, they were in for shouts for the Prem, I believe. And and that was, of course, the manager said they weren't, and I think a lot of fans might have been a bit upset about that. But with the signings that they're making this transfer window, well, we're used to it now from the last couple of transfer windows they've had, just signing multiple players. It's something we're getting used to now with Chelsea.
It's the Todd Bowley way.
Exactly, the Todd Bowley way.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that they made another big amount of signings again. But the difference is the terms of quality in some of these players. In terms of João Pedro, that's a prem proven again as well. Just the quality he has and how they can help them. Because of course they had Nicholas Jackson at the striker position, but some people weren't 100% on him. So I think João Pedro, he's even shown already in the Club World Cup how good he can be for Chelsea. Um, and who else have they signed? Who else have they signed? I completely forgot now.
Well,
Gittins as
Joao
well.
Pedro, Jamie Gittins.
Jamie Gittins is someone I'm also really excited about because I think he's relatively young, coming from Dortmund, and we know a lot of players that come from Dortmund develop really well there, and come and thrive in the bigger clubs. I think he'll do well at Chelsea. I'm trying to think who else they've signed. So get in João Pedro,
That's all.
Hato.
As well.
Yeah, he's official now, isn't he? Yeah, I think Hato will also be great for their defense. I think, to be fair, I do believe their defense is a place that they really need to try to bolster up a little. Only because they're quite young and of course they lost Thiago Silva and that. They're obviously a couple of seasons back they lost Thiago Silva, who's someone that was so vital to their defense with that experience that he has. Obviously, they played him in the Club World Cup, and he's shown in the Club World Cup how good of a centre back he is. Thiago Silva, of course. So losing him and trying to replace him was never going to be easy. But signing these kind of players like even Hato, always helps. Will always bolster the defense. And yeah, to be fair, I think this can help them possibly at least challenge for the title. Whether they win it or not, I just it's hard to tell. They're still a very young team. So whether they've got that how do you say it, like that fight in them, or that experience in them to kind of push on to win that title. Of course, we've seen it with Arsenal, who we're going to talk about soon. They get close, but they just haven't been able to get over the line. And maybe that's due to not having the experience of a player that's maybe won it before. And of course, Chelsea haven't necessarily signed anyone who has won it yet to be able to, say that they've got that experience. But again, they got a lot of quality in their team. So I think they'll definitely get top four again. And I definitely think they could possibly at least push for a couple more trophies. Of course, they did win the Conference League, but I think they could easily push for the league title, the Carabao Cup, and even possibly do get far in the champion. Is it? Are they? Yeah, Champions League. Wait, are they in
Champions
Europe?
League, yeah.
Yeah, in the Champions League. Well, of course they finished top 5. Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, what about you, Hassan?
Yeah, I think they've made good signings for sure. It's just, as you said, they're all relatively young players, so you can't really know what you're going to get from them. I feel like obviously they're more signings for the future rather than instant impact.
Yeah.
Like players like Arsenal, for example, made Gyökeres. He's an instant impact signing. I feel like with Chelsea, they're signing more for the fact that they'll develop into good players. Obviously, they are good players already, as they are, but obviously they haven't reached their potential fully. They're still quite young. And I feel like, Maresca has to obviously develop these players and make them adapt into the squad. But yeah, with the names that you said, you can see the potential. You can see how Chelsea can become a fearsome team in the future. I feel like, as you said as well, they can be competitive in certain titles. But in my opinion, I feel like the experience kind of lets them down. I think they were one of the youngest teams on average in the Conference League. Obviously, they did end up winning, but I think that's more to do with like the quality and not the age. But I feel like when it comes to the more difficult competitions, they'll need that experience. They've lost big experience, as you said, with Thiago Silva. I feel like that'll come back to hurt them, especially in the defense where you need to have these experienced players. So I think, whilst Chelsea have made very good signings, I don't think they'll reach unbelievable heights with their signings. Even if they're quality signings, I feel like because they're young players, they're going to need more time than some of the other players that have been signed by other clubs. But I'm interested to see how Maresca performs with Chelsea, and it'll be very interesting.
I think I'll just add something really quickly to this because we have to move on. But I think that Chelsea, what the hell was that? Chelsea. I was gonna say something. I don't know what I was saying. Chelsea, they already played really well against Paris Saint-Germain. Now they're the best team in the world. Now they have a team already that I would say is starting to solidify and gain experience. They won the Conference League. They won the Club World Cup. They've gained experience with winning trophies. They've got players that have that taste and that hunger, and they're going to want to feel that hunger again. So I really believe that they can do well this season. I think these signings, it's not the same as Manchester City where they have experience and all that, but I think they can come in and sort of embed bit by bit, grow, and make an impact. But let's move on because we have to move on to the top two now. And surprisingly, it was the top two, and it's in the same order. So our second place, which seems to happen a lot for them, Arsenal. Right. Don't mean to catch them out. We have to mention it, because they do always seem to finish second.
Netflix FC.
Now Arsenal.
Anyways, we'll carry on.
Okay, well, let's move on. Yeah, we can't chat. We are Man United fans. We can't chat. But listen, Arsenal had a fantastic transfer window so far. I think they're still looking to sign a left winger and make signings there. They haven't really sold anyone, which we'd have to discuss that really. But they bought Zubimendi, fantastic midfield player. Gyökeres, the big signing, the one that I think will help push them and make that title race a lot closer than it was last season. Noni Madueke, now he could be an interesting signing. Now it really depends on where he plays and how he plays. I think he's a good player, but he just needs a bit of consistency. Christian Mosquera, young Spanish centre-back from Valencia. I think they've already got obviously Gabriel and Saliba, but hopefully for his sake, not for Arsenal's sake, for his sake, he can sort of embed and learn a lot from them. They bought Christian Norgard, an experienced midfielder, that played in the Premier League, very proven. Was the captain of Brentford, which, fortunately for them, they've had a very bad transfer window for their sake. And Kepa, who's a very good backup and did really well at Bournemouth last season. Now, I think Arsenal, personally, can definitely push for that title this year. I think if they had a left winger, they'll make it even more likely. They did very well last season. They went to the Champions League semi-final. People forget about that, but they only got knocked out by PSG. And they finished second, which we don't like to mention a lot, but they were closer. I mean, Liverpool were just dominant. They did their thing. But I think Arsenal now, they have a striker. This is what they need. So let's see if they can change that number 2 to number 1. But, we'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think?
Okay, yeah. So with Arsenal, the reason I believe we put them above Chelsea is just because, I believe they were already so close to winning the title in the last season and the seasons before. And I think all they needed was to sign a prolific striker. And they've done that in Gyökeres. Of course, not only have they signed him, they've signed players like Zubimendi and Madueke and Norgard. And I think those kind of players will, like Madueke and Norgard, will help for depth. But the players in terms of Gyökeres and Zubamendi, I believe, are the quality that they need to help them push to really push for that title. Now, so I just think Gyökeres is what they've needed. Of course, we can't really talk too much about how he's going to do in the Prem. We're going to have to wait and see for that. He is a quality striker, though. We've seen he can do it in big games. Of course, he scored a hat-trick against Man City last season. So he's clearly good enough to play in big games and score in big games and perform in big games. So whether he can do that for Arsenal this season is we're just going to have to wait and see. And yeah, no, of course, Zubamendi as well. That will bolster their attacks. I believe they've lost Partey, if I'm correct. So being able to replace that,
we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that.
But you get my point. At least they got a replacement in Zubamendi, who's a great centre mid. Who, of course, I believe Liverpool were also after last season.
Real Madrid as well,
and Real Madrid. So being able to snatch him off them clubs is just it's brilliant for them. And yeah, so I think Madueke again would be quality in depth, but one position that it seems like a lot of Arsenal fans are screaming out for is clearly the left wing position. It seems like a lot of Arsenal fans are starting to get fed up with Martinelli on the left wing. They think that
head down merchant.
Yeah, so maybe, of course, there's been maybe talks about them looking at Rodrigo. I think if they were to sign someone at the level of Rodrigo in that position, it would really just solidify their whole team of puck quality in all the positions that they have. If they get Rodrigo, obviously, or someone just on that level, a left wing. So yeah, I just believe they really need to sign a left winger to really just complete the team. But no, they've had a great transfer window, and I really think this can help them push again for maybe more trophies. Of course, that's something again that also the Arsenal fans have been screaming out for. Of course, Arteta hasn't won a trophy since the first season he was at the club. So I think this season coming, it is vital for them to win a trophy. Doesn't matter which trophy it is, whether it's the Carabao League Cup. Of course, for the Arsenal fans, I'm sure they hope it's going to be a Premier League or a Champions League. Of course, they did get far with the Champions League last season with the semi-final, and like Carl said, got knocked out by PSG, who we all know were the best team in the world last season. So you can't really blame them or for losing to them. So like I say, great transfer window. That's why we put them second, and I'm sure they'll go on to do really well this season. What about you, Hassan?
Yeah, as you said, they made class signings. I mean, I think Gyökeres is the big one, to be fair. That was obviously left wing has been the problem too, but I feel like striker has been the main, source of problems for them. Kai Havertz obviously not being an out-and-out number 9, and also having an injury, I'm pretty sure as well. So they had to rely on Mikel Merino to be a makeshift striker. It did work out fairly well for them, to be fair. He had a very impressive season for the role that he was kind of forced into. But I feel like having that number 9 will transform the team and obviously lead them to scoring more goals. I mean, Gyökeres, as we know, is a very impressive player. 54 goals last season for Sporting. And that's what Arsenal really need right now. And I feel like that will push them, obviously for the title and other trophies. But yeah, obviously other signings too bolster up the team. Zubamendi is a great number 6. He's gonna provide a lot for the team. I feel like in that midfield, Arsenal need a player like him to help stabilize the midfield. With the likes of Odegaard, who's going to go up front, the number 10 position. So yeah, I think that they've made very good signings. But as you said, left wing is a position that they need to obviously get. Madueke can be played as a left winger, but obviously he's left-footed, so it's not really ideal for him to play in that position. Obviously, players who are left foot like to cut in on the right and obviously try and shoot and score. So I feel like having a left-footed player, left wing, isn't really the best idea. Martinelli for me is a good player. I just think he's not been consistent enough to show that he can start for Arsenal. I feel like he needs competition at that position to push him to new levels. But yeah, no, I think Arsenal have had very good transfer window. And it'll be exciting to see who's going to win the title next season. I feel like he'll be very close with Liverpool and Arsenal. I feel like those two titans are going to be fighting at it together. But yeah, let's just see. But I'm very very interested to see how they're going to play.
I think the league season next season is going to be one of the most exciting ones in a while.
Yeah,
Like we said previously in previous videos, one of the most anticipated ones. I just think all the big teams have made big signings. None more so than Liverpool, the Premier League champions, pushing for that 21st title to knock us off our perch. And I hate to say it, but they are just a fantastic team. You can't take anything away from them. They were fantastic last season, and they have blown every single team out the water with their transfer window as well. Now,
100%.
they've signed Florian Wirtz for a record fee. They also signed Hugo Ekitike for £80 million, about 95 million euros. They signed Milos Kerkez, probably the best left back in the Premier League last season. They lost Trent Alexander-Arnold, but they went and got the second best right back in Frimpong. They had Mamadashvili, who was out on loan, but has come in now, as going to be fighting with Alisson for that number one spot. I mean, you're not going to take it off Alisson that season, but he will definitely be a good backup. I just think in terms of incomings, they've been fantastic. And in terms of outgoings, that's probably the most underrated part of their window, where they sold Luis Diaz for 70 million. Like, unbelievable how they're getting that price for him. Like, he's a very good player and all that, but, he's getting on a little bit. They sold Joao Kwanzaa for 35 million. Now, for a player who's only 22 and barely made any Premier League appearances and not really done that great, he's done okay, but he's not done anything special, right? But for 35 million, you're getting for him. They sold Kelleher for 15. They sold another youngster for 10 million. And they got 10 million for Trent Alexander-Arnold off Real Madrid, which is incredible because he was out of contract. But obviously Real Madrid needed him for the Club World Cup. Fortunately for them, they didn't do well, but they made just below Chelsea, and they don't really need to sell anybody else. And they've basically almost funded that potential move for Alexander Isak. But for the current transfer window, I think they've blown every other team up because they're already Premier League champions. They've added quality and depth. They've added an attacking midfielder, which I think they really needed. I think they needed that creative outlet, which really will help them. They needed a striker. Ekitike, if is he that striker that will move them forward? Is that going to be Alexander Isak? We'll have to see. And I think they needed to replace their fullbacks. Obviously, Trent's gone, and I think Robertson's getting on in age, and I think their team's starting to look complete again. Like, it's unbelievable what they've done. Yeah. The more you think about it, the more you think, this team's just going to be unstoppable next season. I don't know what you guys think. Do you think that Liverpool will run away with it again, or do you think Arsenal will get close this time?
Honestly, I think Liverpool can just run away with it again. Now, of course, they've had such an amazing transfer window. Like you said, they've already broke the record. You say like with Florian Wirtz. They replaced, they lost one of the best right backs in the world in Trent, and replaced him with another best right backs in the world in Frimpong. So that's already there's just great business. Of course, they also a position that maybe they looked like they needed boostering, and it was left back. Of course, Robson's getting on in age and starting to lose a bit of his quality, and they did that immensely by signing a player like Kerkez. And of course, Florian Wirtz. He's such an amazing talent, such an amazing player, and I can only imagine him boosting that midfield. Of course, they had players like Soboslai, they've got McAllister, Gravenberch. But I just think what he can bring to that team is just can help them really create more chances and just become even more dominant in each game going forward. And again, like you say, it's just like the depth that they're adding to the team can only further bolster that team and help them to go on to not only win the Prem again, but to also even compete even better in the Champions League. Of course, they did get knocked out last season, but again, by the Champions League winners in PSG, the best team in the world. So you give them a bit of the benefit of the doubt. But even this news about them possibly even signing Alexander Isak, even after signing Ekitike, just shows the ambition that they have as a club, and how they want to look to become, a dominant force, like for example, like how City were. They really just clearly are trying to be that kind of team and that dominant force and they're showing it with these signings that they've made. So honestly, it's they're clear above everyone in terms of their transfer window, in my opinion. And yeah, I have only good things to say about Liverpool and their transfer window, really. And like Carl says, this season coming will be such a good season, I believe, with all these signings that all these big clubs have made, all these amazing players coming to the Prem. It's going to be so exciting to see. But yeah, what do you think, Hassan?
Yeah, as you said, Liverpool absolutely blown it out of the water with their signings. Like, it's ridiculous. It's scary for the other clubs, to be honest. Like, seeing these big signings for the fees that they've gone for. Not a single player that they've signed is a small player, apart from one young player that Khalas has mentioned. But I feel like every signing they've made is world class. Like, you can't fault the signings whatsoever.
Mm.
And also the potential going for Isak as well just makes them even more scary. Um, but yeah, like I feel like for Liverpool, if you're keeping track of Liverpool and how the identity as a club has been for the past like few years with Jurgen Klopp, that they were a club that didn't spend a lot of money on players. They tend to save money and rather invest it in players that not like seen to be as world class, but turn them into world class players like the likes of McAllister and whatever. Um, but yeah, I'm sure Jurgen Klopp's also fuming at the boards. He's been asking for these like big signings for a long time, but he hasn't been getting them
Yeah.
when he was the coach. So yeah, I'm sure he's sad that pissed at them, but it is what it is for him. But I think Liverpool are definitely a team. They're definitely a team fighting for the title. Definitely like the favoured ones to win the title. Unfortunately for us United fans, we're gonna have to watch them again do well. But that's part of the game. Teams fall, teams go up. It's all part of the sport. But yeah, no, I think Liverpool have made world class signings in every position, and even if they've lost players, key players like Luis Diaz and Trent, they've bolstered it up again with world class players on top of that. So I feel like they haven't lost any quality, maybe even gained more quality, and especially the likes of Isak. Yeah, Liverpool are going to be a fearsome side next season, and yeah, can't wait to see how they play. But obviously, I'm gonna not be happy about them doing really well. But it's part of the sport, and hopefully United can take inspiration from these signings and stuff.
Yeah. Obviously, we know how good they already are, and they've improved their team. But that is it, guys. I think we've gone a little bit over time in terms of the video. We were planning on talking about the preseason, but there isn't really enough time for that. Just a little recap, and we'll probably put it on the screen for you. We're going to go over the top six. So we started with Tottenham at the bottom, sixth place, then Man United, then Man City, then Chelsea, then Arsenal, and at the top, again, Liverpool. So that is our top big six teams ranked transfer windows. This could change further down the line. We might redo it, but we'll have to wait and see. This is for this current moment as of the 5th of August, Tuesday, as of today. That's the transfer windows we've seen from the big six. Yeah, and I think they've all done decent transfer windows, some done better than others. But that is it for the ranking, and we will just go on to the quiz. Al, if you would like to give us the facts.
Yeah, so guess the player. I'm going to give you 5 facts, and let's begin with the first fact. He began his professional career in France and played for both Paris Saint-Germain and Marseille before moving to England. Second fact. Despite being a fan favourite and winning multiple personal awards in England, he was controversially left out of France's 1998 World Cup squad. Third fact. He won both the PFA Players Player of the Year and FWA Footballer of the Year in 1999, a rare double for a non-English winger. The fourth fact. He won the Coupe de France and Ligue 1 double with Paris Saint-Germain in the 1993-94 season before moving to England. And the fifth and final fact. Despite being a winger, he was once named Premier League Player of the Month while playing for a struggling Tottenham side that finished mid-table. Now, see, leave your comments down below on who you think the player is, and again, we will reveal it in the next episode. So I hope you can try and guess it from them, those facts, and yeah, so that's that for that.
Thank you guys for coming to the video. Please leave a like, please subscribe, please leave a comment for the quiz and any further suggestions you want us to include in the coming videos. Turn your notifications on because we're going to be hopefully posting 2 videos a week. But that's it from us. Thank you very much for coming again, and we will see you on the next one. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Bye.